Hey everyone. Yeah, sorry about that. My laptop. If you watched the first stream I just did now, sorry about that. My laptop needed a restart. Hopefully it works smoothly now. So yeah, I wanted to talk about what's pretty much been relevant to everyone in this space for a long time, which is the whole self-sovereignty movement, not depending on big data platforms, being independent, using technology to do it, yada yada yada. I'm going to say this is easy in some areas and really hard in others. And when it comes to phones, I mean, you're pretty much owned from the get-go anyway, but you don't have to make it worse than you need to. So when it comes to, to quote Jacob Appelbaum, it's a spying device, it's a surveillance device that also makes phone calls. But I mean, who uses a phone to make phone calls or send text messages anymore anyway? Everything's done over the internet. So if we can take away the fact that phones track your location, which they do, I mean, unless you want to go SIM free, that's a good way of doing it. But phones track your location, that sucks. But everything else, you can pretty much make it your own device. I decided to go and do this, to de-Google my phone years ago, and I haven't looked back. I do have an old Android that I have to use for certain applications that just will not work on these forks of Android, and that sucks. But nonetheless, it's worth doing because we've just hit a line in the sand moment. The reaction that I got this morning when discussing this news with someone about Apple saying we're going to check your phone now for for pictures of child pornography or something, or illicit images or something like that. We're going to start checking your phone for that and working with the authorities, yada yada. I've seen the defense of it. People saying, oh, it's just if you have iCloud switched on and your pictures go, but it's not going to remain that, right? The point is, Apple have said your device categorically is not yours anymore. I mean, it never was anyway, but this is the point with stuff like this. I hate the fact that it's the boiling frog syndrome. There has to become a point as a human being where you go, this is too hot for me, I'm jumping out of this water. And if they keep slowly turning up the heat, you never have that moment, but you're a human being, you're not a frog. So you should be able to figure this out. And this is one of those moments where you go, that's it. I don't care if I sort of assumed they were doing this anyway, and now it's written, they're explicitly doing it. Choose that as your moment, because this is unacceptable. Your devices need to be your own. And if you're going to have an Apple iPhone that spies on you, that's going to get you put on some sort of sex offender register because you took a photo of your baby having a bath and you end up with false positives, things like that. Yes, I know the annoying knee-jerk defense is, no, they're just comparing it to a list of existing known illicit imagery. They're not going to do that. Of course, but they will in the future. And by the way, what does it say about Apple that they have a massive collection of child pornography that they compare all your pictures to? That sounds a bit fucking, oh my god, what the hell are you even playing at, guys, getting something like that together? I mean, that's just, what the fuck. But anyway, I'm here to encourage people to do the hardest thing when it comes from getting, like, you can close your Facebook account. Facebook's dead, who uses it anyway? You don't need to use WhatsApp, you don't need to use any of these crappy messaging platforms. You can use reasonable stuff like Signal and Telegram. Of course, Start9, we're all about people going full self-sovereign, hosting their own services, but you can at least have privacy on services like Signal, things like that, and it's probably okay, though at the same time maybe there are issues, and there is a reason self-hosting is better. But let's talk about phones. Let's talk about actually having, because you're not going to not have a phone. This is my day-to-day phone. It's a Pixel, yes, so I bought the hardware from Google, fair enough, but I flashed it with Graphene OS, and funnily enough, yesterday I finally managed to figure out how to get notifications working on it. So now things like Proton Mail and like a chess app that I use, Elements, Slack, all of these things that I have to, even Twitter, all of these applications now actually work properly. I didn't mind using my phone anyway. To me, it was worth the trade-off, not having a Google phone, to have my own phone under my own control with Graphene. It was worth having to open Proton Mail, the app, whenever I wanted to check my emails, because it would have no push notifications. It was actually worth it, and I didn't find it that inconvenient. But now I get push notifications, so basically I haven't lost any functionality at all. Uber still doesn't work. There's Google Maps works, but it complains. Most apps you'll find that need Google Play services will work anyway, but you'll have to tap through a menu that says this app won't work without Google Play services, and you press whatever and get rid of that menu, and it just works fine. Authy or Trilio is a good. Twilio, what's that app actually called? I actually want to remember the name of this. Whatever Authy changed its name to, that app actually works fine, even though it gives you a warning. A bunch of Bitcoin Lightning wallets complain about it too, but not all of them. I think doing this is one of the best things you can do, because the more people do it, the better it gets, and collectively we get more knowledge about how to flash these things, and people make more effort to use different devices. And Prem, it looks like you're talking about having an old phone and you want to flash a new one. You've got a Pixel. I wonder if that would be useful for anything still. Yeah, Pixels are great. They're known for being very easy to flash OSs onto. They have a hash of porn, not a collection of porn, for the record. Read how they compare it. Yeah, I mean, but that's useless, right? Because we know how hashes work. So if you want to distribute child pornography using iPhones and storing it all in iCloud, or if you're really going to do that, I mean, doesn't that just tell you how absurd the whole thing is? Because why would you keep an identical hash? Like, why would you, oh my god, first off, of course we can just change one pixel of the thing and get a completely different hash. But the point is, the whole approach is just so stupid and so obviously going to just lead to clamp down and just control over Apple's users. That's all it's going to lead to, which is just a thing that needs to be fought back and resisted. And this is a good time to do it, I would say. I do know some people in the Bitcoin community that have got Lineage. I think Luke runs Lineage, but I know so few people that have gone to the effort, and I know loads of Bitcoiners that still use iPhones, and I'm like, really? Like, you're using an iPhone as a Bitcoin? That's a little bit perplexing to me, to be honest. So I'm encouraging people to get off it. Get a Pixel. This is a Pixel 4a. So yes, you're going to have to do a Faustian bargain. You're going to have to buy hardware from Google, but I'm okay buying hardware from Google. It's not ideal. If someone wants to come along and actually educate me a bit about these other phones like Prism and all these cool like left of center projects that I still haven't got into, I would love to know more about that. I would even have you on this channel to explain about it if someone's up for that. If someone's some phone hacking expert here, would love that. But all I'm saying, this is a real short stream. I just want to say, use this as an opportunity, guys. Get off of these, get off of Google, get off of Android if you can. Now is as good a time as any. People are going to be coming along for the ride. And you'll find these communities kind of welcoming. Lineage I found actually really annoying. It might just be the nature of Reddit, but every time I had a technical support question for trying to get Lineage on any device, my thread on Reddit would get deleted. And like one time I managed to get a mod to say, sorry about that, we'll put it back in, but no one will see it because the nature of Reddit, it doesn't give you the fresh appearance again. If you post something and 3 days later it gets approved by a mod, no one will ever see it because it's already fallen way down in the algorithm. So Lineage is actually kind of annoying, I've got to say. This can be difficult. It took me months to figure out how to do this stuff. Every single phone you can buy new here's the Venn diagram. Here are phones that you can buy new, and here are phones that are officially supported by Lineage, and there's no overlap. So that means you have to buy a second-hand phone, and when you buy a second-hand phone, 99% of the time you're not going to be able to unlock it. And this was a problem I found over and over again. And even buying older generation phones like Samsung Galaxy S9s and things like that aren't sold new anymore, or HT, a OnePlus, like they go right up to the Lineage officially support, right up to the point where the next phone is one that you can buy new. And the minute it's no longer sold directly by manufacturers and you have to buy it secondhand from China on Amazon or eBay, the trouble is those phones all say they're unlocked, but they never are. So that's why the Google Pixel ended up being the one, because I could buy a new Google Pixel 4a that was unlocked, that was unlockable, that hadn't secretly been poisoned by Verizon or Sprint or something like that, and was able to enable OEM unlocking on it, which is the hard part. And there's all sorts of weird quirks with unlocking a phone as well. Sometimes you'll buy a brand new device and you'll press about phone 9 times and then it turns on developer options, and you go into developer options and OEM unlocking is grayed out or it's not there at all. And sometimes you just have to wait 24 hours because they won't let you do it unless it's 24 hours after you first turn it on. There's all these and then you've got to be careful what you do with the date, because if you reinsert the date and it resets your counter, then that's not good either. I mean, I found there to be so many annoying issues with it. So definitely look into it, and definitely know it's not going to be the easiest thing. But when I switched to using pixels and graphene, everything suddenly got really easy. And yesterday I actually made the effort to look into Graphene's guide to spoofing Google Play. And Google Play, I don't recommend Calyx and I don't recommend Lineage. I'm going to go with Graphene for this. Kudos to you if you go with a whole open source phone from the off, like Prism or Pine Phone or any of these projects. If you do that, please let me know, because I'm really curious about this project. But yeah, I just wanted to make that an advocacy for this general open phone movement. I don't know what it's really called. De-Googling is generally what it's called. But obviously we're talking about Apple here. It's funny that Apple would call us Screeching Minorities. Let me see if that just switched the screen over. Yeah, it did. It's funny because, the EFF have said we're not happy about this. Apple opens a back door to your private life. But here's what they were saying. They're saying, oh, it's a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding. We know the intention of this, even if it's not technically what people understand it to be. We understand what it is on a rights level, on a human level, that our device is spying on us and reporting what we do. And everyone can, just like with Edward Snowden's revelations, go, oh, we knew that. We knew the government were listening to all our phone calls and taking all our text messages. And I was always like, no, we fucking didn't. We were called conspiracy theorists when we said it, and now that Edward Snowden's come up with all the proof, everyone just responds with, oh, well, we knew that. I'm like, what? So it was a conspiracy theory, and then it was just common knowledge. Where was the bit in the middle, the outrage part? I hate that always gets skipped. So this is a classic example of that. Everyone knew that if you have a photo in your phone, in your Google or Apple phone, you can't really assume that thing is secure and private. Now we have actual confirmation that it definitely isn't, and everyone's just saying, yeah, we already knew that. I'm like, okay, but this is the moment to take them. That's the bit where you go, okay, I'm not alright with this. Like, you can't explicitly do that stuff, and, it's just not okay. Like, it's not okay to turn a blind eye to it, and pick your moment. This is the moment. Like, I want to see it become common knowledge that you don't just buy a phone from Google and they're like, right, you need a Google account to use this phone. Sign in. Oh, you don't have a Google account. Make one. Oh, you got it into your real age. You got to do this. Like, everything tries to do this stuff. It tries to control users. Like, I tried to sign up with Clubhouse the other day and it says people use their real name on Clubhouse. I'm like, I'm not going to use my real name, thanks. Like, they have no right to this information, and they're always trying to do this stuff, trying to say, oh, it should only be one account per person. I think they're even trying to make you need, in Australia, they're now saying you need 100 points of ID to sign up for social media. Meaning, if you want to have a Facebook account in Australia, you need to upload a passport picture or a driver's license or some combination of whatever adds up to 100 points in their system. Stuff like this is not okay. It's done in first thing you've got to do is ignore the rationale and justification for it. Oh, we're saving children. No, you're not. That's nonsense. You're not doing anything for anyone with this stuff. Let's dispel the myth that there's any positive outcomes of any of this stuff. Next, what are the negatives? Well, they're insanely huge. The negatives are none of your data is secure anymore. That's the obvious main one. The second one is you don't get to trust your own device anymore, and you should be able to. You should know that if you have the analog equivalent of a photo album sitting in your drawer at home, you should know who gets to see that thing and who doesn't, because it's something you own and it's not something that other people have any right to. And that it's not okay for people to adjust their psychology to the idea that what's private, i.e. you ever handed your phone to someone to tell them to look at a picture and been anxious that they swipe in either direction? Like, that's a reasonable that's a reasonable way to feel about it. But the whole thing is just open and up for grabs to these huge companies that are going to get hacked, and we've seen it happen with. We've seen iCloud get hacked, and that was embarrassing for a bunch of celebrities. I think Taylor Swift had a bunch of embarrassing pictures leaked. Stop using these platforms. I mean, if you want to use cloud storage, okay, we've got Embassy for that anyway. But moreover, just don't use these devices. You can't hack an iPhone anyway. It was very aptly called jailbreaking when you would hack an iPhone back when it was possible. I don't think that's even possible anymore. So iPhones to me are out. They're luxury, they're friendly, they're happy to use, they're very easy, very user-friendly, very reliable, but they also cost an insane amount of money. The batteries aren't very good on them. They don't have an output for headphones. They've been caught before red-handed releasing updates that make older generation devices lose the battery power faster and make users more, just compelling them to go, oh, I need a new phone, this one sucks. You've had an iPhone for a year and a month and the battery only lasts 5 hours on it or something. That there was a malicious upgrade they released that did that, and they got caught doing it and they apologized. I mean, don't buy things from people that are going to abuse you. Just don't do it. Just have some self-respect, and it requires a little bit of discipline and a little bit of effort. And I should switch the screen back, sorry. Switch over. Message me if you're interested in it, because this is something that I don't know much about. It's not Bitcoin, it's phone hacking. Let's get into it. I want to see more people do this. I want to see people encourage people to do this. I had to buy a phone for my daughter, and that was horrible because I tried my best, but in the end I ended up giving her stock Android, and I didn't want to do that, and it feels like a horrible compromise having done that. It's one thing to be Richard Stallman in your values and want to use to not use things that use you, instead to own your devices and have them do what you say. That's a great thing, but when it comes to having children, that's when you're like, okay, I'm really going to enforce this now. I'm not okay with my little girl being told by her computer, you can't click on that and you can't do this, and so that's pretty much it. I think that's all I want to say on it. The fact that they would call us screeching minorities is just, I mean, if they're right about that, that's just depressing, and if they're wrong, then I would love them to be proven wrong, that it might be a minority, and yes, we are screeching about it, so let's be honest, it's not an inaccurate statement for them to call us screeching minorities if we have a problem with Apple's behavior. But what needs to happen now is minority needs to win, which is enough anger and motivation now needs to be leveraged by people and into the result where they would go, that's it, I've had enough. I'm no longer going to accept this. I'm going to use a device that I control with open source software, and I'm going to commit to doing things that way. You can still run apps, you can still run Facebook and Twitter and all these awful apps. You can still do it on the open source phone, but way more securely. And I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole. If people seem interested in this, I'll go down the rabbit hole and do a bunch of research into these way cooler custom hardware phones as well, where there's physical switches where you can turn off microphones and cameras and things like that. That's cool as hell, but I haven't gone that far yet. So that's why I'm trying to keep this video short, because I don't want to opine on stuff that I don't actually know about. Hey Prem, I see a bunch more messages from you. You're super paranoia. You have super paranoia, and may have picked this up from you in the past. They've got spy hardware on the device from the get-go. Can another OS protect against screen or input capture devices? Most people I come across tell me it just isn't true, that the government doesn't do that I must have misunderstood the story, etc. I mean, you'd be forgiven for assuming that, but understand it's not the easiest thing to do that. I've had a long back and forth with Graphene about this, and they do a lot to make stuff like that difficult. So I would never assume it was 100% secure, because there's no such thing as 100% secure. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Be careful if you're going to do stuff that is going to raise red flags and get you in trouble. Be careful, but nonetheless, I would say that what you're worried about there, if you change the software on a Google Pixel I think you're okay. I mean, we do know. These things are running ARM chips. Please correct me if I'm wrong there. They're not running Intel chips, and we know Intel chips are backdoored from the get-go. ARM hopefully aren't. So, I mean, I think we're going to be all right with assuming that a pixel running graphene is secure. I don't think there's going to be a big problem with that. And I'm led to believe that by a bunch of information given to me by the graphene guys on Twitter. And they've done a lot of good work. And I think it would be a lot of effort. It would be one of those things where if you're targeted, you can't do anything about it. But most of what happens with regard to surveillance, remember, is always just dragnet. Or you just get caught up in the dragnet. And, you know, it's the equivalent of, if you're a dolphin, you're going to get caught up with the tuna fisherman. Okay, but if you're a tiny little thing like that, they have to find you and explicitly target you, and that's expensive, and they can't do it to everyone. So remember, the more people that do this stuff, the more expensive it gets to run these spy agencies. And governments are going broke right now anyway, so do what you can, make it 100 times more expensive. If you use Tor, it's like with Tor browser. Like, they can still unmask you, and you can still get de-anonymized using Tor, but it's a pain in the ass for them to do it. As opposed to if you just have all your conversations in Facebook Messenger, then it's easy. They just get all the data handed to them for free. So just make it expensive for them. If you're gonna fuck me, then I'm gonna make it really annoying for you to do it. Because if that's the best I got, that's the best I got. And in this case, that's the best you got. Let them try and, if I become a person of interest, and they want to target me, it's going to be really annoying for them to do it, that's all, because of the steps I've taken. And there is stuff that they just cannot touch, which is my embassy. Any data on there, good luck touching that. You're going to have to brute force your way into my Tor hidden service. No way. My passwords are super secure. I'm typing them in on, well, okay, they're typed in on devices like a MacBook Pro, which is not so good, but it's still a lot of effort for them to target me. And that's mainly the reason I do this. Like the old culture jamming concept of, you know, when people are carrying on with mindless inertia that just leads to a downfall of, of civil liberties, just put a wrench in the machine. You're gonna, like, if you can make this trampling bulldozer of authoritarianism and state surveillance and surveillance capitalism, if running towards us at 100 miles an hour, if you can throw a wrench in it and make them have to work, it's going to make them take 100 times longer, you win. Just make it difficult for them. Don't make it easy. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Do it, guys. Get an open source phone. Get open source software for your phone. And I recommend Graphene, and I recommend the Pixel. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Speak to you soon.